Part 4? Yeah, that's pretty part 4 of the course. Anyways, we begin the second half of this series after a little intermission. Thanks again for 1,000 subscribers, by the way. Intro time! Alright, now the intro time is over, it's criteria time. Most of y'all already know this, but just in case there's some out-of-order Andes creeping about, I'll explain them again. I rank these arcanas based on visual design, lore, spell effects, voice lines, and animation. I then average all these aspects together to make an overall score out of 10. With that done and done, time to spin the wheel, with functioning footage this time. Earthshaker. Right out of the gate, I love the color scheme of this arcana. This nice deep blue on the bright pale mane and beard is very visually pleasing. Reminds me of Finland's flag a bit. The whole celestial theme is also a very cool direction to take Earthshaker in, and they commit to it hard. I especially love the constellation that connects all the spikes of the antler. Speaking of which, having him missing an antler serves more than one purpose, and I think it's a brilliant design choice. It still clips into his totem, though. Even the more earthy elements of this arcana have celestial themes to it. These rocky growths on his hands and feet still have that blue glow. The eye patch denotes his experience and age, and still fits with the arcana. Regarding the second style, I really like this color scheme, and it still manages to keep the celestial vibe that makes this arcana iconic. An amazing composition from both styles, and a neat little nod to his Dota All-Stars model. 9 out of 10. The lore of this arcana is interesting and gives him an implied connection to OD. For those not in the know, this Earthshaker is himself and another Earthshaker from a different planet fused together into one being. Therefore, he has a more rock-like body with a glow in between the cracks. Now, who else do we know that's from another planet with rocks on their body that also glow? Outworld Destroyer. His lore is that he's the lone survivor of a shattered world. You see the parallel? Who knows, maybe the denizens of this shattered world all have this weird glowy rock stuff all over them. Or it really is the influence of the ancients corrupting them, as discussed in one of Sir Action Slack's videos. It's a nice piece of consistent world building that's quite rare in Dota's character designs. However, the arcana fails to tell us as readers why he fused himself from another world. Did he seek to do this? Did it just happen to him? This is a genuine textbook lesson as to how intrigue is done right. When you look at the link between OD and Earthshaker's arcana, it makes you ask genuine questions with consistency. It doesn't tell us if they came from the same world, but it hints at it with consistent features in the character design, forcing us to make connections in our heads without any concrete answers. When the writers just don't tell us how and or why Earthshaker fused with himself from another world, it doesn't encourage us to make connections between existing details. It just leaves us in the dark, grasping at nothing. The connection to OD's Lost World is nice, but the crux of this arcana existing goes unanswered, and not in a good way. 6 out of 10. These spell effects blew me away. The celestial particle effects look amazing, and the VFX artists really outdid themselves with the Echo Slam. It's almost enough to... Okay, you know what? It is enough to forgive the lack of a Fisher effect and a barely existent Enchant Totem effect. Aftershock and the Scepter upgrade are wicked nice, but the Echo Slam takes the absolute cake with this one. It cracks the ground, it warps the air, it leaves constellations and esoteric runes in its eruptive wake. 10 out of 10. Absolute cinema. The voice lines are decent. We get a pretty good performance from John Patrick Lowry with a neat voice filter that makes his voice boom. And it sure sounds like Earthshaker. There's not much of a substantial difference besides the celestial echo. The monologue and the hero interactions are pretty neat.
God of War, meet Rock of Ages. Honestly, the inclinations of youth are lost on me. Looks like you ran into a wall.
But what really stood out to me were the meme references.
This is my dagger. There are many like it, but this one is mine. That wasn't worth 6 million anything. Not in my house.
They're a bit too prevalent, I think, but with how cemented this character is in the Dota community, I can excuse it. 8 out of 10. The animations that come with this Arcana are pretty darn good. He definitely looks more confident about himself, is what I'd say. Instead of plodding along in a pathetic sort of way in his default walking animation, he's more upright, certain of where he's going. The spell animations aren't too different from default, which is a bit of a shame, but the real kicker is the upgraded enchant totem. He flies into the air doing flips and spins and always just slams the totem down. And if that wasn't enough, when he's using the ability to get away from enemies, he looks back and waves. It's such a sick detail, and it's what makes the modern Arcanas downright awesome. 9 out of 10. Overall, this Arcana gets an 8.5 out of 10 from me, an amazing Arcana that just has the Dota community poured into it. The lore may need some touching up, but every other aspect is nigh perfection if it's not there already. Okay, ES down and out. Let's get on to our second Arcana of the episode. Shadow Fiend. Surprisingly, the visual design of this Arcana manages to be less edgy than his default design. Where his default is dark, sharp, and only has a splash of color, the Arcana turns him into Fire Guy. He's like the Guy Fieri version of Shadow Fiend. There's lots of fire all around, and instead of red, he's orange. It has the Juggernaut problem, in which this is kind of a mess of particle effects. However, I do like how the face is all disfigured from the flames, and he steams when he's standing in water. I'm pretty conflicted on this design. I think it works for Shadow Fiend, but lacks the spark of creativity. It's too obvious and predictable of a concept, I think. So it's only gonna get a 6 out of 10. The lore of this Arcana is pretty simple. Instead of feasting on the souls of the living, Shadow Fiend sought the souls of demons, and was transformed into this fiery monster for it. It definitely fits Shadow Fiend's character. He probably would try to eat a demon soul at some point. It really lacks depth though, and it's not because Shadow Fiend is already a bit of a one-dimensional character. Other Arcanas, like Faceless Voids, manages to give his character some actual depth. This one fails to do so, and therefore it only earns a 4 out of 10. The spell effects for this one go hard. The raises have some really good detailing and leave behind a little scorch mark. The ultimate is also insanely good. I like how the demon souls that he unleashes have horns on them. The only real complaint I have is that Feast the Souls doesn't have a custom spell icon. Other than that, this is an extremely competent set of spell effects, and the ability icons are just a work of pure art. 9 out of 10. This Arcana only has a voice filter, and that voice filter fits pretty well. It makes SF sound raspy, but still intimidating.
It's the perfect time to start a new collection. It's true, I am the soul of a poet. I just can't remember where I put it. Outplayed.
This set of voice lines showcase how despite being on fire from eating demon souls, he's still overconfident and prideful. It's a very nice effect that fits the Arcana perfectly. 10 out of 10. This Arcana only has one new animation, that being his ultimate ability. And it's a really good animation that plays perfectly into the fire theme. He charges up as if he's containing something about to burst. I've always compared it to a volcano erupting, and the sound effect that goes along with it helps exemplify this. It's downright perfect, and I wish he had more than this. Nevertheless, this animation alone earns a 4 out of 10. Overall, this Arcana gets a 6.5 out of 10 from me. The spell effects and voice filter are extremely competent on a bit of a generic design with a, ironically, soulless lore bio. With SF out of the way, let's see what the wheel's gonna give us this time. Legion Commander, from Demon Eater to Demon Slayer. Despite being one of the first 3 Arcanas in the game, this one is surprisingly detailed for its time. The weapons she carries are sleek and elegant, but these black particle effects show that they are very, very evil. A note on that, the black particle effects are also emanating from Legion Commander herself. Her armor also turned red, which can be assumed to be due to the demonic corruption. My problems with this Arcana are the same ones that I have with the Shadowfiend Arcana. It's too predictable. This is just, what if Legion joined the enemy team? And they left it at that. The Arcana looks good, but it's not too creative. 6 out of 10. The lore of this Arcana leaves too many details out for my liking and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It involves Legion Commander seeking out a baleful armorer who gave her the blades as a gift. Said blades corrupted her and mind-controlled her or something into fighting on the demon's side. Alright, so first of all, why would she ever accept help from an enemy? If Legion Commander is anything, it's stubborn. There's no way she'd take a demon's weapon to try and stick it to Underlord. She's determined, not desperate. Why was she looking for new weapons anyways? Did she know that this baleful armorer was going to give her something? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it's decidedly the worst lore bio of any Arcana. Okay, well, one of the worst. 2 out of 10. This Arcana only affects one spell, as is the usual for early Arcanas, and it's dual. It's got a nice Hellfire effect with a line drawn in between the duelists. It fits with the Arcana, sure, but I wish the end of the duel was better. It just ends with the usual effect and the winner text. Make Legion get set on fire, or have her blades glow or something. All of this awesome imagery, and it's ended by some gold flare and a word art floating above your head. The victory count thing is cool though, but this one gets a 3 out of 10 from me. The rendition of Legion Commander we get in this Arcana is fully corrupted. No turning back, no redemption. 100% different goals. No longer a Stonehall stalwart, but a demonic duelist. The new voice lines aren't too numerous, but having her speak Oz-Kavash is a nice touch.
Oz! Damage growth! They will pay for their defiance! I've come to put an end to hope!
The voice filter is nice and definitely warranted considering the corruption. Very nice overall and a great performance by Merle Dandridge. 8 out of 10. The animation of this Arcana is alright. It's nothing really to write home about save for the taunt. The fact that the taunt was considered for this Arcana is very cool. The new animations for the dual wielding are nice, and I really enjoy the idle animation since it says a lot about how Legion Commander changed. She went from this straight, orderly posture to something more relaxed but still alert, as if to show the degradation of order into chaos. 7 out of 10. The LC Arcana earns an overall 5 out of 10 from me. Despite coming before the Terrorblade Arcana, it outshines every aspect of it, but not by much. The new animations are the best aspect of it by far, and every other aspect could use some work. Alright, last one of the episode. Let's end with a zanger. Skywrath Mage. Well, nice of him to finally show up. I'm going to start off by saying that this looks good. And now that we've talked about Venge's Arcana, I'll talk a bit about why these Arcanas being released together in the way that they were was just messy and confusing. Anyways, I really like the general color scheme of this. The shades of blue they use is so nice, and the wings look excellent from up above. He's all glowy yet dark, with sleek armor and long black hair. The perfect Arcana for the depressed e-boys. Some people argue that since he's a mage, he shouldn't be this buff. However, he is part of the Queen's Guard. He should be muscular underneath all that armor since he's literally a bodyguard of the Queen. I get that people hate mindless sex appeal, but there is a genuinely good reason for him to have a six-pack. My problem is how this Arcana and Venge's Arcana were propped up. I want you to expunge everything you know about Crownfall for a second and watch the debut animation for these Arcanas. Okay, Now, what do you think the concept for these Arcanas are based on solely on what you've seen? If you said, oh, this is clearly an alternate universe where they swap places or something, I would not blame you in the slightest. Why were they, quote-unquote, advertised in this way? It has nothing to do with the story of Crownfall, and it only succeeds in confusing people. Well, it confused me at least. I read the comic before seeing the intro, and I was left wondering what the story was actually going to be about. Also, this Arcana is consistent with Event Arcana in that it spoils the event. At least this time it's the second style, and not the default. With that aside, I really do like this one, and it made me put Skywrath in my hero pool. 9 out of 10. Again, don't really need to say anything here except 10 out of 10. Finally, an Arcana for a mage character, and every spell has a heavy focus on the effects. Each and every single one is downright beautiful. It's just a shame that you don't get to see the ult a lot of the time because of the bug. The effects for Phylactery and Atos are very nice, and the icon art for everything is great in both styles. I personally favor the blue effects better though, but I really gotta hand it to the VFX artist for making such awesome spell effects. 10 out of 10. Oh, and it has custom spell lifesteal effects. TJ Ramini knocked it out of the park with this one. In this set of voice lines, we get an angrier Dragonus. He's bent on dethroning the queen, and is a lot more aggressive than his default lines.
Righteous in purpose, we shall make them bleed. My brain, your pain. Paganim is peculiar, but his power cannot be denied.
An amazing performance for an amazing Arcana. Not much else to say, except 10 out of 10. Right out of the gate, we're back with the clipping issue. In the very idle animation, the wings clip through the staff. This oversight rivals the one about geographically ambiguous accents. Clipping aside, these animations are fine. I wish the spell animations were a bit flashier, but what can you do? I don't have much to say about this one. None of them really exemplify his personality. You could slap these on a generic winged mage and it would still fit. It's competently animated, if you can forgive the clipping, but they definitely lack personality. 5 out of 10. Overall, this Arcana gets a 9 out of 10 from me. It's awesome all around, held back by its generic animation and blatant clipping. Well, there you have it. 8 Arcanas to go. Thank you all for sticking along with this series. It means a lot that y'all take the time out of your days to watch my content. God bless, and until next time.